Radio Hereford FC, the only station with full match commentaries of the Bulls. Every game, every week.
Hello and welcome again to We're Going Down the Pub with me, Frank Williams, and the ground guru extraordinaire yet again for the 10th time this season.
10th time already, thank you, Frank.
Simon Wright.
Whoa, thank you for that splendid introduction.
Okay, Tonbridge. Well, actually, it's Tonbridge. It is pronounced Tonbridge.
Tonbridge,
Yes,
is it really?
yes, it is pronounced Tonbridge, not Tonbridge. They don't like it. It's Tonbridge, but it's not to be confused with Tunbridge Wells,
yeah,
which is a few miles further south. Absolutely, there's still Tonbridge.
There you go, learned something new already. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, what do we know about
Tell us about the club.
Tonbridge?
Tell us about the club.
Well, I think everybody knows by looking at the tables they're been unbeaten all season, which is a little bit alarming, and they're joint top of the Ryman League, which is step 3. They don't score a lot of goals. They sound a bit like Romulus, really. They just seem seriously hard team to get past. Played 8 games, scored 12, which is a bit strange for joint top, and conceded 4, which probably says a lot. Now, during the week, they played... Now, Leicester.
It's Leicester.
Leicester,
It's
right,
Leicester.
okay. I will get my head around this. The Angels, they played Leicester, who were the other joint leaders during the week, and it finished 2-2, which...
2-2.
By their standards, a bit of a goal fest, really. And, you know, you can imagine their defence was weeping buckets, conceding 2 goals. Their main man, now it may sound a bit strange for Hereford ears to hear this, is Nathan Elder. He scored a spectacular total of 1 goal for us. But he seems to be a bit more than just the archetypal big lad, because he was their top scorer last year with 24, which made him the 3rd top scorer in the division. And he's got 7 this season already, so, you know, very much one to look out for. A little bit more on their history, if you like, or recent history. They're in Conference South, so step 2, between 2011 and 2014. Now, last season they made the playoffs to compete to get back to step 2, and they got 85 points, so, you know, they are serious opposition. I think, arguably, the toughest opposition Hereford FC have played in a competitive match. More possibly accepted, of course, because they're marooned up north forevermore in step 5.
Now they're Gates.
Gates, yes. Now, they have an average gate of about 500 of their owners. Now, I use that expression, you know, advisedly, because the Angels are supporter-owned. And the list of owners, well, it's on the website, it's like a telephone book without any telephone numbers on it, you know. Goes on and on and on and on. And I suppose it's fair to say we are going to be outnumbered. And that's fairly unusual for us.
I would think that their gate will be above average.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
And every one of them possibly an owner. Can we buy into that while we're there? Because we still become part owners and then outnumber ourselves. Which would be...
I like that concept.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. We'll see if we can sign up when we get there.
But,
right.
You know, we seem to manage pretty well. Last time we were outnumbered at Salisbury, so I guess we can do the same again.
And we've got that coming up again soon.
Bring
as
it
well,
on.
the week after, yeah. Now, the stadium itself, it's pretty new, isn't it, by football standards?
Opened in 1980. I think they moved in the town from one stadium to another. Now, it's one of those, in theory, can hold 3,000, but it's never actually been tested. The ground record is 2,500, which was a previous playoff game a few years ago. Now, it's got a very smart main stand.
Yeah, it's actually a transect through it will make it look like a nose cone of Concorde, doesn't it? You know, it's very low, dippy head, not much of a rate.
Quite dramatic. I mean, I think our resident architectural correspondent has got some theories on most parts of the ground.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Well, no, that I mean, the seating is quite interesting because I understand they actually brought that from their old ground,
yes,
didn't
they?
So that goes back 1980s. But we're back again to having it's a bit better than a bus shelter behind each goal. There is a stand behind each goal, but it doesn't go the full width of the pitch. It's a proper terrace, proper cover,
terrace with steps.
and there's 2 of them, one on the north side, one on the south side. Interestingly enough, they're called the North and the South.
Yeah.
Mezzanine stands, because that's the company who built them. Now, I thought they only did these elevated floors.
Yeah, exactly. That's
And I never knew that the word mezzanine, it was actually the company that developed that type of flooring. Now, everybody calls elevated floors mezzanine floors.
Isn't it amazing what you learn on these audio guys, folks?
Well,
just amazing,
fantastic,
isn't it?
Yeah. But there's one of those. Now, the clubhouse side of the ground, opposite the main stand, which has got the dugouts and the clubhouse, which is the Longmead Lounge, is the clubhouse. We'll go into that. We'll go into that later on.
Yes.
There's a tiny little stand there, one side of the ground, which is reserved for the directors. But it's got a terrible view, because it's halfway down one side, so you get a terrible view of the other goal. So that would be interesting to see whether our directors muck it in with the main stand. Or,
Yes.
or,
Well, you know,
decide to go in
it's a
there.
moot point, really, because if it's supporter owned, isn't everybody technically a director?
Well, I suppose
for
they
their
do, well, you know, you still have to have a board of directors
Yes,
to run
I
the
guess
club.
so.
I mean,
I
you
guess
know,
so.
FC
an owner
United,
just like you. Yeah.
FC United Manchester are owned by the supporters, but they still elect a board of directors. The trouble is, they change them every year because they're not happy with them. You know, this is the problem with it, really. Okay.
What's
Now,
the essential points we're going to need to mention?
how much is it going to cost to get in?
Exactly. Yeah, it's their standard league prices: £10 for adults, £6 for, shall we say, mature citizens, and then there's a sliding scale
Like me?
for kids. Well, if you wish to put it that, old fart, if you like. But yeah.
And your missus?
Yeah,
No?
she's an old fart, official old fart, but there you go. And there's a sliding scale for kids. I can imagine the arguments, no, he's not 12, he's only 11, I can imagine that, but there you go.
And it's all on the gate.
It's all on the gate, no tickets, you know. I doubt there's going to be much more than 1,000, to be honest with you, at the game. And another joy for us drivers, parking is straightforward.
I noticed there's a big aerial view of the ground shows. Actually, that it looks a bit like the parking was at, I think it was Loughborough, where you've got
really? Stylised car park.
with
I like those.
landscape parking by the ground. It looks as if it holds a fair few as well.
It's big and it's free, which, you know, hey, look, I'm up for that.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have a rugby pitch next to it.
No.
I know.
Well, I don't think we can go, can we?
But it's not in the southwest.
That's all right.
It's only in the southwest
then,
that you get a rugby ground.
And so the prospect of a big free car park right next to the ground is going to be, you know, really handy for, frankly, knackered drivers just like me. You know, but a masseuse and a complimentary coffee would go down well, chaps. If anybody from Tonbridge is reading that, it's a seriously long way from where we are.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to the club itself.
The clubhouse,
the parking we know is going to be fairly... The clubhouse, the Longmead Lounge.
Oh, that sounds very sophisticated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know a huge amount about it, but it does promise live football and it does promise real ale, so that's very much the easy option if you've done that marathon trip.
This is a land of £4 a pint, isn't it?
Goodness me. Yeah, says us supping our £2.80 pints from HPA, Y Valley Brewery,
Absolutely.
no less.
We've changed our location. Just for this one-off, we decided we'd move from the Wagon and Horses, which is 100 yards down the road behind us, and make our way to the King
Edward's,
yes.
Yeah. If anybody knows Hell's Own Town's ground, we are literally next to the turnstile.
Yeah,
so it's
we are indeed.
A good place to be.
And we're right opposite Simon's house, which meant that he...
Please drop in when you
And at 5 to 12, he staggered across the road. It looked as if you just had a skinful before you came in here. How many times did you say you've been in here this week?
I've been 5 times this week. I'm getting moving towards lush status, I fear, but there you go. Anyway,
you're well known. Well, thanks for finding this spot. It's very good. Right, okay. The clubhouse we've done.
Yeah, we've done the clubhouse, but you need to bear in mind that there's probably, it's a bit of a desert, I'm afraid, for drinking. There doesn't appear to be a pub within a mile of the ground. Just about every pub near the ground has closed down. So if you want to drink or need some serious refreshment, you're going to have to look at the town centre.
Don't go by what it says on Google Maps. It goes by all these pubs that there are outside the ground. It's one every couple hundred yards. They've all gone.
Bulldozed, knocked down, flats, etc.
Town centre?
Yeah, well, we ought to say big thanks to Mark Nottingham for chipping in his local knowledge. So grateful for that, because otherwise we might be struggling a tad. But Mark recommends the Punch and Judy in St Stephen Street.
Yes, I must admit that looks That looks
It
very
looks
good.
a proper old boozer, doesn't it? Yeah,
Interesting
yeah.
little boozer.
Yeah, it's just a couple of minutes from the train station, so if you come by train, that's easy.
Not massive, and
No.
there's not a lot of space
No,
around and about
there
it.
isn't,
I don't
there
think there's a
isn't.
beer garden or anything, so, but
And,
the beer looks promising.
It's just across the road from the cop shop, and it's much loved by off-duty police officers, so you need to maybe mind your P's and Q's a bit. But they promise real ale, including their regulars, ones I'm not too familiar with. One's called Harvey's and one's called Tonbridge.
Yeah, there's a brewery in Tonbridge.
Right, Tonbridge
They
Brewery,
have their own
okay.
brewery, their own microbrewery, and it's supposed to be reasonable, but also reasonably priced. It has the price of a microbrewery, not the price of the local ales, which, as I say, it's £4 a pint territory.
It is,
Tonbridge,
it
you'll
is.
probably get it a lot cheaper.
Yeah. The local Spoons is in the middle of the high street. It's called the Humphrey Bean.
I wonder where that name came from. Now, that is the old post office.
Right.
Apparently-
They like post offices.
They do, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah, but
yes.
now we'll have
Ross
to
on
look
Wye's
at
got an excellent.
find out where
Yeah.
Humphrey Bean came
Yes.
from.
Now this one has 12 ampoules, which is impressive, for a Spoons, to be honest. But
It's going to be rammed on Saturday lunchtime.
well,
though.
everybody knows about it, and probably, if you're paying £4 a pint, you're going to queue in the local Spoons as well,
Well,
aren't
exactly, because elsewhere it might be £4 a pint, but it'll be the standard prices
Yeah, yeah.
in Spoons. And of course, you'll if you want to eat, you'll get a deal with the drinks with
you? Yeah,
with
that's
food.
right.
Then.
That's right. And talking of eating, Mark, we don't just make this up. We do script it a bit. Talking.
I've come to be seen by the papers here in front of me.
Yes, indeed. Now, if you're into nosh, a good tip from Mark Nottingham again, the Oriental Buffet Club, that's also in the High Street. It's one of those where you can eat yourself silly for a fixed price, which is just over £7. And apparently it's quality stuff, including some Nepalese dishes. Now, I'm not at all familiar with Nepalese cuisine, but hey, if that's where you want to go and try something new.
Now, if I know you though, Simon, you will have sorted out, as you have on all our other visits,
Yeah.
somewhere where you can get a decent cake.
This reputation
I know,
is building
I know.
unnecessarily. Okay. Just by happy coincidence, I do have one for cake lovers. Again, thank you, Mark, for this. It's a local landmark, if you like, called the Finch House. It's in Pavilion Shopping Centre, just off the High Street. The cakes are very impressive, the coffee is seriously impressive. It's a bakery and it's won some local awards recently, so if you want to try some quality produce, and hey, come on, we're from the Shire, we like quality food, don't we? So give the Finch a go.
And now, if you get there early and you want to have a walk around, there's a few little sites you can see. The castle is supposed to be very interesting.
Yes, yes.
And that's not far at the town centre. If you're going for a weekend
Yeah,
break
go for it. Yeah.
or anything, Tonbridge Castle, it's on the riverbank. It's English heritage.
Yeah.
One of their smaller properties, but it's very, very nice. Apparently, and well worth a look.
We do culture in the Shire very well.
Absolutely. We've got some little things about the town I found out here. We've
Gosh, these are fascinating.
I know, little anecdotes about why Tonbridge should be famous. Which, Tunbridge Wells is famous.
Indeed.
Because you've got the pantiles and all that. A bit like Chester to walk around, it's very interesting.
Oh, that is nice.
But Tonbridge is famous for, I can find three things. First of all,
Go for it.
it was the scene of a riot. After the parliamentary
Love
elections
it.
of 1880,
Yeah.
when both sides, I presume then it being the Whigs and the Tories, decided to hurl stones at each other and
not?
cobbles in the High Street near the Rose and Crown Hotel.
Okay.
But the chief constable, whose name was Captain Ruskin, with over 100 policemen, decided to go in and break it up. Well, you know what happens then. Two sides fighting each other, they turned their attention to the policemen, so they started hurling all their stones at the policemen and so
It's a
on.
lot of cobbles, mate. It really
But
is.
it actually was national news, a riot at the parliamentary election. It doesn't happen now.
No?
We don't have riots.
We don't
at
get
elections
excited anymore, do we?
So, football matches could maybe.
That's why they've got a permanent police
Now,
station.
the other interesting thing is that the United Kingdom's first speeding fine
First and
was handed out by
yeah.
Tonbridge Petty Sessions Court in 1896. The guilty driver was a Mr. Walter Arnold of East Peckham, who was fined 1 shilling for speeding at 8 miles an hour in a 2 mile an hour zone in Paddock Wood in his Carl Benz powered car. But Mr. Arnold was apprehended by a policeman who had given chase on his bike. So in fact,
Fascinating story.
the policeman had to break the speed limit in order to apprehend him, but that was only 8 miles an hour.
I don't know how you measured it then, but there you go.
Yeah, but they did. And Ruth Ellis, who was the last woman in the United Kingdom to be hanged, was married at the registry office in Tonbridge on the 8th of November 1950. Now, she was hanged. There was a film not so long ago called Pierpoint, who was the hangman.
Yes.
It was his last hanging then, about whether she was actually guilty or not. Nowadays, she would not have been found guilty because it wasn't a crime of passion. It was she had been seriously abused. I don't know whether it was by this husband or not, but she'd been seriously abused and she retaliated basically and hung for it. But just so. Don't argue with the women in Tonbridge, I would suggest.
Anywhere else come to that?
No, absolutely. Okay.
There we go. We do need to talk about getting there, because that's the one topic we haven't mentioned.
Yeah. Well, you're giving me a lift, that's one good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a monster, as probably people have worked out by them.
From
already.
Hereford,
178 miles, which I suspect probably going to be our longest away game of the entire season.
Well, unless we get through this round and then get drawn away to...
It'll be Dover, won't it? Bound to be away, bound to be at Dover, you know. I think a lot of people have been looking at going by train, understandably, but that's a bit of a chore as well, because you're looking at 4 to 5 hours to and from the Shire, and that includes the underground and getting a local bus at the other end, and probably worst of all, you're probably looking at about £60 minimum each. And, you know, you really want to do that? But anyway, each to their own.
But it could be one of those if you're driving, or one of them. If you're driving, it could be one of those again if you've already made the plans for a weekend away.
Yes.
That's
nice.
I
mean, that would work.
You're not that far from the coast. Yeah, that's okay if you stay overnight and spend Sunday at the coast. You know, it's still fairly nice this time of year.
This broadcast is sponsored by the Kent Tourist Board.
But it's not sponsored by Reg Reynolds, because Reg isn't running a coach this time. Now, we always tell you what Reg is doing, but the club is running a coach.
In partnership with Hust?
Well, yes, we're providing the stewarding for the coach, I hope.
Which is important.
A person with a register, effectively, to make sure nobody gets left behind.
Well, it's a bit more than that, but I know what you mean.
Very important.
And yes, it's a very reasonable £20 considering the distance.
And I can't remember what time they're leaving, 8:30, I think.
Oh, that sounds about right, given the distances, and the infamous M25.
Yeah, but if things go well and you get there early enough, you'll be able to look around the town and maybe start another riot outside the Rose and Crown, if you can find a Rose and Crown.
So guys, we will hopefully see as many of you as possible there in a few days' time.
That'd be nice.
Cheers.
Thank you very much for listening, and we'll leave you with...
This is Radio Hereford FC, the home of the Bulls. Match Day Live.